Okay, could you tell me who you are, please?
Hi, I'm Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr. I'm president of the Hip Hop Caucus.
And the Hip Hop Caucus does what?
The Hip Hop Caucus is a human rights organization for the 21st century. We work on issues like from Katrina to Iraq to education to poverty and getting more young people involved in policy and in the process to create change.
And how are you using social media in that respect?
We're using obviously the internet, and we're using things from MySpace to YouTube to Facebook. We're also using other creative ways of creating media approaches so young people can use the media and tell the stories that are not being told in their communities. And so we like to say the revolution may not be televised, but it will be uploaded. We'll upload it on YouTube, we'll upload it on MySpace, but we will definitely tell the story of this generation.
What stories aren't being told?
Well, there are definitely stories of police brutality in some communities. The housing crisis, which is now a story, was being told in certain communities. There are still stories of Katrina that aren't being told. People are still getting Katrina fatigue. And there's so many stories that are going on in the community. Good stories, actually. Stories about students succeeding that should be told. Stories about students who are making a difference in their community that aren't being told. So these stories aren't being told, and they can have an impact, because if you're watching the nightly news or reading the newspaper, and all you're seeing, particularly in communities of color, is that young people are bad, or they're not engaged, or they're hoodlums, then obviously if you have other stories where say, well, hold on, there are students who are building homes, there are students who are working in food shelters, there are students who are engaging in policy and challenging their mayor, there are students who are fighting against jails, and they want more schools. So these stories need to be told, and they need to tell them so that they can be a fair, balanced as far as information going out into not only to their community but the world.
And what has worked best?
Well, I think there are a lot of things that work best. You have to recognize that the oppressed communities have always needed to tell their story, from the pulpit to the community, and they've used that as a mechanism. Dr. King was used, Malcolm X, people using that resource. So today we're still doing that, but now we're using obviously a 21st century style of communication. So we're using everything from, again, the internet. We're using mixtapes, which are like recorded CDs that people can record messages in between songs. We're doing so many different ways of doing that. They're using everything from graffiti in some cases that tell stories in some communities about what's going on in their community. But we're using a number of mechanisms to make sure that the voice of the oppressed, the voice of the disenfranchised, sometimes it's the voice of young people, make sure it comes to the forefront, because only if it comes to the forefront as a part of the process, well, in this country, we'll have an engaged democracy.